Culture, yes, very much. The principal also mentioned in her keynote address yesterday that agriculture is one of the key areas where IoT is being used. So, we will, yes, we will see to start with on how agriculture mentioned in her getting the benefit of keynote address yesterday, that followed by an overview on technology where IoT as a technology, the layers of IoT is being used. All of that we are going to see. Some of the we will see to start with on how agriculture mentioned in getting the benefit of keynote address synergy, followed by an overview on technology where model technology and the layers of IoT is being used. All of that we are going to see, and then some of the we will see to start with on how agriculture mentioned in getting the benefit of IoT synergy, followed by an overview on technology where model technology and the layers of IoT is being used. All of that we are going to see, and then some of the we will see and to start with on how agriculture mentioned in getting the for sure. I will also try to answer some of the questions. I will also try to answer some of the questions in between the session, and so we don't need to wait until the end to answer all the questions. So on that note, I'm going to start the current session with the first topic on how IoT is used in agriculture. Let me just hide the screen so that you people will be able to, you will be able to see the heading as well. So IoT in agriculture. I know all of you, most of you belong to south of Tamil Nadu, where agriculture is bread and butter. I also come from that part of Tamil Nadu. I come from Karaikudi, where I have seen near my place. In fact, I come from a village near Karaikudi, so I have seen a lot of farmers. Lot of agriculture is going to the field in the morning, coming back in the evening, sweating their day out. So I have seen it all in my childhood. So agriculture is definitely one of the mainstreams in India, and I read yesterday that the global population is almost will be touching 10 billion in about 30 years from now, by 2050. So what has got the population to do with the agriculture or IoT? The answer is simple. You cannot do a traditional farming as we do today, right? If we continue to do the traditional farming as we do today, I don't think we'll be able to have enough resources to support the population that is likely to hit in 2050. So what is the model? I don't know how many of you have heard of this term called tissue culture. This is one of the biotechnology terms that became popular sometime in 1995-96. Since then, the biotechnology took off, big time. Tissue culture is one of the different ways of farming, in which it's slightly unconventional, still healthy, where they are able to quickly move from one produce to the other produce without spending too much of time. They were also able to produce a lot more quantity in a shorter time because of the advanced technique that they were following. So on the similar lines, now with IoT coming into play, the smart farming is going to be the order of the day. So what is smart farming? Smart farming is basically nothing but there is going to be a high-tech system of growing food, right? From the traditional model of growing food, which is what is being done today, we are moving to an unconventional, technology-dependent, technology-driven, capital-intensive model in which there are going to be a lot of technology-associated devices, modern ICT as we call, using information and communication techniques. That is going to drive the force from now, or it has already started in some of the Western countries. I'm sure it will also evolve for a period of time in India. So when it comes to farmers here, the education plays a role. The ability to use these smart devices could play a role. But then IoT in Tamil, IoT in Telugu may not be not too far away from here. And then they will all be able to easily understand, interpret what IoT gives them. So basically today, how do you monitor the crops? You go to the field, you check, you have one round, you go around and check whether the crops are good. Any damage has happened, any intruder has come in, any animal has come and damaged, you do all that. Now You can replace this manual human intervention by a sensor-based monitoring. So a sensor need not only look at the quality of the crop, the growth of the crop, but also what is the light which is there, what is the humidity level for the day, what is the temperature, soil moisture, initially what was it like, what is it now. On a regular basis, all these things can be done by IoT-based devices on the field, and then the farmers can monitor them from anywhere. Farmer need not go to the paddy field every day. Instead, he or she can sit at his house and then see what is happening on the ground. So, which is going to be a good value add that the farmers are going to gain out of this. Now, this need not only be for the field level farming, but also the organic farming. Organic farming typically is also a field level farming, but it may not be as big as a normal field level. So it could be a smaller segment. Also the family farming or the terrace farming that we do. There are private farms, right? You must have seen private farms everywhere. In Chennai, we have ECR. Once you go to East Coast Road, you will see plenty of private farms there. So even private farms can be monitored. For example, I have seen people driving to ECR in the morning on a Sunday to just check how their farm is, how their produce is developing. People used to drive 40 kilometers on a weekend to see the crop. Now they don't need to do that. Sitting at their home, they have everything monitored through the devices, and they get the output on the system. So this is also possible to be able to manage. And also the water usage. Tamil Nadu is always short of water. Of course, India also, there are places where we have shortage of water. So how do we optimally use the water? How do we conserve water? Electricity, as we discussed yesterday. So a whole lot of inputs we can get out of IoT based sensors that we can fit in the field and monitor from anywhere. So this is the way IoT is going to is helping the agriculture industry. Then moving on to some of the applications that are basically, that can be deployed on the agriculture side. So there is something called precision farming. So basically it is nothing but a farming that is more controlled and accurate. Okay, more controlled and accurate. This need not only be for paddy related stuff, field related stuff, but also for raising the livestock. There are a lot of animals that the farmers maintain, and not just the crops. So how do you manage them? The IT systems, sensors, controls, robotics, all these autonomous vehicles, etc., can guide the farmer to monitor the livestock, the quality of livestock which is there, whether a particular animal is sick, or when an animal is pregnant, how do you take care of that animal sitting at your place? So all these things can be managed using the precision farming technique. It's very important that you also take care of the livestock, because they are the ones who are going to help you on the field. Whatever be the technology that you may get, still those animals are important. Cows give you milk, and unless the cows are taken care well, they are healthy, you are not going to get milk from them. So how do you take care of that? And you need, I've seen there is an organization in the US who work exclusively on this particular site. Okay, there are a lot of farmers, and there are a lot of people who own horses also, not just the cows and bulls. They also have horses who are basically who let out these horses for races. So now how do you maintain these horses? Because horses require a lot of feeds, monitoring. They should be, especially a horse that is taking part in a race, you need to make sure that the horse is in a very good condition, healthy, and it is not falling sick. So all these particular things are managed using the devices sitting at your place. So it is not just the crops and other things, but also the animal side can be taken. Madam, can you please be on mute? We are hearing you. It is disturbing everybody. Could you please be on mute? I hope you are hearing me. Please understand, when you speak, it disturbs my flow. It disturbs the concentration of the team, people who are listening to this. I will figure it out how to mute everybody tomorrow.
Sir, otherwise you can send those person out of the meeting, sir, because they're disturbing everybody. kindly ask them to leave, or else you can send them off from the meeting.
No, that's not correct, ma'am. We should not do that. We should not do that.
Because it's disturbing everybody.
I want people to stay on mute. It really disturbs everybody. I don't know. I think it is so important that we all stay muted. This is actually a very good session. I am learning a lot out of this. Trust me. Okay, I am learning a lot out of this. I want people to understand that there is a dedicated time that we have created for this session. So please understand. I request all the participants to stay on. I still hear the background noise.
M. Ramesh, Mr. M. Ramesh. Mahalakshmi, kindly mute your audio.
Don't you want, see, I am not talking about, see, let me tell you, okay, the way I do sessions is completely different. I do not talk the way how probably you will be teaching the students. I come with a lot of real-time examples to give you. So it requires a lot of preparation from my side as well. I spend about 3 to 4 hours preparing for a session. So for an hour of session that I give you, I require about 3 hours to prepare. So I think it is very important that we all appreciate others' time, others' effort that goes into this session. And your Nadira ma'am and Shaheen ma'am, they have taken a lot of time and effort to organize this. So it's so important that we all respect that and then we follow. Thank you so much. Let me continue. So we spoke about agricultural drones. We have seen drones now. Even during the COVID impact time, we saw a lot of areas. Policemen were sending drones to monitor the kids, whether people are outside. Not only kids, whether people are wandering around. I don't know about your areas, but in Chennai, that was happening regularly. The drones were sent out to see who's out and vehicles are out. Children were playing cricket on the road in paddy fields, etc. So they were all running away seeing the drone. So drones can help you a lot in terms of finding out the health. So what drones do? The drones are also still here. I still hear. Okay, I'm trying my best. Please, I hope you are able to follow me. Okay, I understand it is not easy to follow when people are speaking in the background. I hope you are able to follow. So,
so kindly you mute all the participants.
I'm trying to
because
do
the
that, ma'am.
option will be available with you only.
I know. I have done that in the past. I don't know where. I don't want to delay the session unnecessarily, so I'm kind of not doing that.
Sir, okay.
Not doing that.
Otherwise, just remove the participants, sir.
No, ma'am. Let's not do that. Let's not do. Let's not do that. I don't want to do that. Let's see. Let's see. I hope.
But still, they are creating very much disturbance.
I complete. There is something called disabled participants annotation. I'm not sure what it is. It may be something else. Mute all. I have seen that. I have also done that in the past. I don't know where it is. I'm trying to figure out. Anyway, fine. Okay, let's start. Let's go back.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so the drones can help a lot. Basically, there is an organization called Precision Hawk. Okay, they are in the US. They are specialized in the drone-based IoT model. Okay, they get a lot of data via a series of sensors, including the images, mapping, surveying of the land. All these things are done using the drone, and finally the in-flight monitoring during the movement of the drone. The in-flight monitoring is done, observations are done, and finally it comes back to the analytical team for analysis. So it is not just not the looking, but also out of that what kind of analysis can be done. So from the data they get insights into the plant's health. Okay, what is the health of the plant, what is the number of plants. For example, let's assume that you are planting coconut trees on a field, and you have planted about say 100 trees in a particular area, 100 plants in a particular area. The drones can also count the number of plants which are there, and what is the yield prediction. How many plants are growing as per the target? How many are behind? So what needs to be done? What is the height of the plant? On an average, each plant has to reach a particular height in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, like that. So how many plants have reached a particular height? How many are below? So what it requires? What is required to enhance the growth of the plant? So you can do all of that. Canopy cover mapping can be done. Field water ponding. So again, that also can be done. You can instruct the water motor to release water at a particular time using this. So literally, you can manage so many things out of a drone. For example, if you are having a paddy related or a crop related stuff, what is the nitrogen content? What is the drainage mapping? Whether the water is getting out properly, whether the water is reaching the plant properly. A whole lot of activities can be managed using the drone. So basically, the drone is one of the best best instruments or devices that gives the farmer huge amount of data, okay, to analyze. Livestock, we briefly touched upon. People are talking only when I talk, then they stop. Okay. As I said, livestock monitoring is basically to identify the animals that are sick, that can be attended to. Let's assume there is a herd of animals, couple of animals are sick there. You can identify them, and then you can isolate them. It's like COVID situation now. How do you isolate the COVID patients? Same way you can isolate those animals so that the disease doesn't spread to the other animals, and then you can keep them separately and monitor them using IoT based sensors. Even for the sick animals, you can have sensors attached, and you can monitor them. You can get their blood pressure using a sensor, and you know, okay, the animal is progressing well, but there is still some problem. Like how we spoke about an ICU patient being monitored. A sick animal also can be monitored using a livestock monitoring process. I told you there is an organization in the US called JMB. They are basically specialized in cow monitoring solutions, animal monitoring solutions. So just imagine the importance that is given to even animals when it comes to agriculture. Of course, without animals, as I said, agriculture cannot flourish. So in terms of technology, mapping the technology to animals, but just not the human beings, they are being used extensively abroad, and I'm very sure very soon we are also going to have that kind of situation. Moving on to the next item, smart greenhouse. Basically, it is another methodology that enhances the yield of vegetables or fruits or crops. This is also a kind of technology-based methodology. Okay, there are a set of environmental parameters that are identified. Then these greenhouses control that methodology. They manage the mechanism. Okay, they manage all of that. What is the advantage? When you need to do this manually, it means there are kids talking at the back.
Class
Okay. Okay, so when you need to deploy a human being to do all of this, what happens? That person may be engaged in production process, okay, monitoring process. So his time is lost. Then the energy loss happens. You need to pay that person, okay, for carrying out such an activity. Now, when you do all this through an automated process, through a device, now you are able to save all of that. And you are able to do that frequently without incurring any additional cost. and they are able to produce data to you immediately, accurate data with which you are able to get the parameters, necessary parameters to correct. It is the corrective action that is most important for any such activities, and these sensors using smart greenhouse can give you that. You can basically create a cloud server, okay, for remotely accessing this particular application, and then use a IoT device and then connect the data to the cloud server, get the analytics out of that, and do the corrective action. So basically, what does it do? It helps you eradicate or eliminate the manual process. Okay, so this can be comfortably managed. It is not a very expensive resource also compared to a manual process which you will be doing. And it is basically a kind of an installation that is done on the field, which manages the whole thing through a sensor. And you will be also able to monitor whether the greenhouse kind of a model gives you the right result, or if there is a problem in the device, how do you identify that? For example, it says, the greenhouse states that the water consumption is actually very high or low. Okay, then it can give you a alert message on your phone by SMS or on the app. Then you know, okay, immediately you can control that. If you have a very high advanced switch for the water motor using an IoT, you can do that. If you don't have, you can go to the field and monitor that and control that. This can also be applied to not just the agricultural part, but also in a mall. For example, let's assume that in a mall, there is a central team who manages the air conditioners. And then you have an IoT device that gives you complete information about the AC level across floors in different wings, different entrances, etc. So imagine a guy who's sitting in the security room can control the whole thing in one place. This is exactly what can be replicated to an agricultural land as well. So basically, what does it do? A summary kind of a thing. This includes sensors to monitor the soil level, water level, light, humidity, temperature, which we discussed at the beginning. A specialized software solution for each of the use cases. For monitoring temperature, I may need a solution. For monitoring water and light, I may need a solution like that. I can have an integrated solution that monitors everything. I can integrate through APIs. And then there are connectivity related stuff. Okay, you all know what is cellular, right? Mobile based connectivity, which we all know. But there is something called LORA. What is LORA? It is basically something related to, at a very low cost, you are able to extend the connectivity for a larger distance. Okay, for example, a Bluetooth. You want to connect a Bluetooth to a device, how much can it support maximum? 100 meters, 500 meters. If you have very advanced Bluetooth machines, it can go beyond that. Whereas, beyond that, you won't be able to get that. Even your phone signal, you are using Wi-Fi and you are at home, you step down from your home, you may not get the Wi-Fi signal. Because they are meant for home use, which have a restricted distance. Whereas this LoRa, what it does is, low bandwidth, high productivity. That is what it is. You are going to have a sensor installed in a paddy field that has to monitor a huge area of the crop field, right? So you need that to be able to reach at least 1 kilometer distance, to be able to get from all parts of the field and give you data. So a typical mobile device or a Bluetooth device may not be able to give you that kind of output. So you need a different kind of a connectivity that has a high level of battery also. For example, you use your phone for one full day, the charge drops, you can charge it. Now, how will you be charging this device on a daily basis in the field? You can't do that. So these are equipped to manage high distance connectivity and low consumption of battery. So they are specifically used for low power wide area networking. That's what they are. So this is a very unique technique that is being used for agricultural farming. Of course, the location identification can be done using the satellite positioning, GPS, etc. There are robots which can be deployed, autonomous tractors. You don't need a machine. You don't need a man to man a tractor. You don't need a man to run a tractor. It can be run automatically. The robots can manage that. The processing facilities, what do you do with the output? How do you process that? Those things can be done using robots. Like we saw yesterday, we discussed yesterday that how Amazon manages its inventory using Amazon Go, completely managed using manless process. Or how do the 4,000 odd robots, 400 odd robots help Amazon to manage their inventory movement? Same way here also you can have the processing facilities, tractors being managed by the robots. Of course, as I mentioned yesterday, any IoT is useless unless otherwise we are able to get a sense out of what it gives. So data analytics plays a major role here. Without data analytics, we won't be able to do anything at all. So it is so important that I am able to get a sense out of my data and I can do corrective action. One is I need to know. I have an excellent IoT created, everything is giving output, but if I don't understand that, it is of no use. I understand that I'm not able to correct it, it is of no use. So analytics plays a major role. That is what I told you yesterday. IoT is not just about one technology. It encompasses multiple technological areas. Okay, it cuts across multiple platforms. There are about 15, 20 different technology platforms that are combined, converged to make IoT. So that is where the demand is so high. So analytical model, analytical algorithm is so important, so crucial to be able to get a sense out of that. Okay. Yeah, basically the same thing is also represented in a pictorial form, so you can understand this better. Now let's move on to how an IoT solution can work and will work. Basically, it is. I'm going to talk about the layers of IoT in the coming slides. Okay, we will discuss that also. How does IoT function? Okay, do I see IoT? Can I see IoT? Yes, no. In certain areas, I can see an IoT device functioning. In certain areas, I may not be able to see. In a plane where an IoT device is fitted to a cockpit, I may not be able to see how exactly it functions. That's where the data that comes out is very, very valuable. Whereas on a field, I am setting up a device, I'm setting up a sensor that can do an IoT process. I can see that. A lot of us, all of us, almost every one of us would have visited a mall at some point of time or other. Or you go to large IT organizations, IT campuses, there is a process for entry and exit. Okay, you have to show your ID card, swipe your ID card there. It recognizes your chip, allows you to, it opens up that gate, you are able to enter. That is basically a kind of an IoT model. Same way, when you come out from a shop, you carry an item unbilled, you carry an item which has a tag that is not removed, that sensor is going to beep, right? We have seen all that happening in movies and then in real time also. So what does it do? It basically identifies what is built, what is not built. So there is an IoT layer that is embedded there to be able to determine that. An example that is given is so beautiful. I liked it. Now, a parent sitting in his or her location, wherever they are, will know when the child has reached the school. Child goes by van, public transportation, the public van, he or she goes to the school. And the moment the child enters the school and passes through that security area, then either through an RFID process, could be typically these are managed through RFID process, RFID tags. An RFID tag passes through that particular device and immediately the parent is notified on the app or by an SMS that the child has reached the school. How beautiful this is. This is what technology can do wonders. Okay, so a sensor and a device or a combination of both or combinations of both. There can be multiple sensors managed by multiple devices put together. That is where an IoT solution starts. Basically, that's the beginning. Without a device and a sensor, you will not be able to manage anything. A Bluetooth is a device. Bluetooth also has a sensor. So basically, you can perform IoT using Bluetooth. The mobile is a device. Mobile also has a sensor, be it a 5G mobile technology sensor or a Wi-Fi sensor, through which signals are passed. Your location is captured through GPS. You are able to trace your location, whereabouts. You know the movement. A lot of things you are able to do using that sensor. So if I have a smartphone and I have disabled my sensor, you will not be able to trace my movement. So both work together, both work in conjunction. Please understand that. Followed by connectivity. Yeah, now I have a sensor and I have written program. Okay, the program is embedded. the program is embedded into the sensor, into the device, okay? And then, as you know, IoT is all but embedded, okay? It's all embedded. So it's embedded into the device and the sensor, device rather. Now what happens is the sensor reads the program and then emits the output. That's how it works. So what happens is, now where does it go? Now this sensor is, this device is connected to the Wi-Fi, through the Wi-Fi to the cloud, okay? It can be Wi-Fi, it can be cellular model, it can be a satellite model, it can be anything. It can be a LP-WAN, which I talked about, LoRa model, low power wide area networking, which we use for agricultural model. We just discussed. So through any of these devices,
Participant, kindly mute your audio. It's very disturbing. Participants, kindly mute your audio.
okay. So it can be through multiple channels. Okay, it can be, data can be sent to a connected cloud server. Typically, you will not manage IoT data on a on-premise model. Let me just have some water, please. So typically, it is all done through the cloud only. So data is passed to the cloud using any of these technologies. So now what happens is you also need to set up redundancy. You also need to set up redundancy. Means if my Wi-Fi fails, what do I do? I need to have continuous streaming of data back to my cloud. So I need to ensure that I have redundancy built in. Alternate models are built in. Alternate communication techniques, connectivity techniques are built in, so that I don't lose track of my. Okay.
Lakshmi.
Okay.
Mahalakshmi. Continuously. Please remove Mahalakshmi otherwise.
Let me
Better, I
just
think.
check. Wait. I don't want. I'll try to mute them. Wait. I'll try to.
Mr. Ramesh.
Yeah, I can. I have muted now.
Mr. Ramesh, kindly mute your audio.
I have done that now. Finally, I got it. I should have done this. It was there in the other window. I've done it now, and I will unmute.
Okay, now you can continue.
Yeah, I have unmuted. You can unmute yourself, ma'am.
Yes,
Ma'am.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Nadira, ma'am, also you can unmute. So I let other people unmute so that we don't have this disturbance. I could have done this long back. I'm sorry. I got it through some other. Okay. This. So yeah, I talked about the connectivity. You have multiple ways of connecting to the cloud, using which you'll be connecting from the data is passed to the cloud. So once it hits the cloud, then we know, right? What do we do? Today, see, basically IoT is a layer. Okay? Today we all work on cloud, correct? Whether it is a normal application, our CRM, our attendance model, everything we work on cloud only today. Majority of our solutions work on cloud. So what we do as an application, a business application, what we do, same thing is being done through an IoT device. That's all. Okay, without the manual integration. Who won? Okay, without a manual intervention, we are managing that. That's all. Okay, so basically, if you just understand that it is not a big rocket science. Okay, please understand that what we do from our system. Okay, whatever we do from our system, we make an entry in the system today. That system hits the cloud. Same thing an IoT device does through the sensor, through the program that we have written on what needs to be done. Simple. So if you understand this hierarchy, this layer, then IoT, you will understand it is not a rocket science. That's all. Just need to relate yourself with IoT device and then everything is same. Of course, there are different platforms, different models in which you can achieve that. Other than that, everything is same. So now coming back to, okay, once the data has gone to the cloud, what next? Now, again, I've been telling the same thing. Any data, unless I cannot process, unless I cannot make a sense out of that, it is useless, right? So that's what happened, right? In a lot of industries until now, they were collecting so much of data, but they didn't know what to do with it. Do you think the big data as a concept came only now? No. Big data existed right from the time data existed. We didn't know how to process that. That's all. Social media came into existence long back. We didn't know how to process their data because we only knew traditional data processing. Then there has to be a technology invented to manage that data. So all these terms, all these things existed. Only thing, the invention, the process, putting that to use came much later. That's all. So IoT has come into existence in the last 10 years. The device does what a human was doing. That's all. So the time taken to achieve that is much faster now, much more accurate. There is no room for mistakes there. There is no room for a manual intervention there. That is the difference. So the data processing happens. This can be done in your data center, in your organization, in your college, wherever you are able to get that data and then do analysis and present it back to whoever is required. For example, if you are analyzing agricultural data, what should you do? We need to present it back to the farmer saying that this is the inference or finding of your field. These are the things to be done, to be attended to. We give it back to them. That is how the data processing team does it. And finally, yeah. Now, if I do data, I have data, I've collected data. I need to present it in a meaningful form to the people. Now, if I give the same data to you, you may not understand. As a farmer, you may not understand. So what should be done? Typically, a graph, a report, a sensible way of presentation has to be made to the people, to the end users, so that they understand what I am trying to tell them. Big data is there. I have analyzed the data. Now I know what it is. I've applied an algorithm model, but I need to create a visualization using a Tableau, using a Click, using a business objects, Cognos, any of the BI tools need to be applied on top of that to get a good visualization and presented back to the end user. Same way here also, once the data comes from cloud, I need to process that. I need to generate a meaningful report and present it back to the end user so that he or she understands. Basically, if you see second, third, and fourth, we are already very comfortable. We know what it is. We have been using that day in and day out ever since cloud computing came into existence. Only the first layer is what we are trying to understand. So if you replace yourself with the device, the sensor-based device, and then you understand IoT. It is not a big thing at all. This is how I interpreted IoT. This is how I understood IoT. Okay, this is a very, very important segment we are now reaching into. I want people to follow this very carefully. This is going to be the order of the day. This is how IoT is going to transform. IoT move on from here. Okay, what is a platform? We all know platform, right? Not the platforms that we see in railway stations, but the technological platforms that exist today. Platform as a service, we all know this term, PaaS. Software as a service, SaaS, SaaS model, PaaS model. We hear this very often. What does it mean? Until 10 years back, 15 years back, we all had servers in our places. Okay, file servers in our places. We had backup servers in our places. On a daily basis, I had to take a backup. And if a server fails, the redundancy had to be built in so that the other server takes over immediately and functions. Imagine in a railway ticketing system, we go and stand in the queue. People are working on ticketing. Now suddenly the server crashes. What happens now? Everything is come to a halt. Tickets unbooked, tickets partly booked, somebody would have paid, that is not updated properly. So there are a whole lot of confusions that can come. How do we eliminate this? So there is a backup server, there is a redundancy built in. So if when a server fails, the processor fails in a server, the other server takes over immediately. So the mirroring happens between server A and server B. So the automatically all the data are synchronized into the other server. That server takes over. This is how we were all working until 10, 15, 20 years back. Now what has happened with the advent of cloud? This has gone. Still there are on-premise solutions which are still existing, especially in terms of confidential information such as Ministry of Defense, government departments. Still there are things that they may not want to move to cloud, so they are still keeping it in their premise. But predominantly, I think 60-70% of the users are moved into adopted the cloud model. So what is the benefit here? I don't need to buy a server. I don't need to maintain a server. I don't need a database administrator. I don't need a hardware administrator. I don't need to get into AMC, annual maintenance contract with my server provider. Nothing is required. I don't need to upgrade my OS. I don't need to keep a tab on my hard disk space. I don't need to keep a tab on my RAM. Nothing is required. All I need is I rent a space from a cloud provider, and then that space is dedicated to me. I can choose what OS I want, what kind of applications I'm going to deploy. Based on that, I can choose the database that I want, whether it is going to be a big data solution. Then I may need a NoSQL database model. I may need a Hadoop model, or it is going to be a traditional data processing I'm going to do. I can still go with an Oracle MySQL model. I can choose anything I want. I want to do Ubuntu. I want to do Windows. I can choose everything. I can take. Then finally a cost comes. I am able to rent that space in my name on a subscription model. I can host my solution there. This is how cloud platform works today. On the same lines, IoT providers, support providers, service providers have also created platforms. As I told you at the beginning, IoT, there are so many software, hardware elements that go into IoT. Except the devices and sensors also are taken care along the devices. So devices come with sensors basically. So except that proprietary devices that you need to install at your workplace, other than that, everything else is taken care by the platforms. So in effect, how does it benefit you? You don't need to incur any capital expenditure. That is the bottom line. There is no capital expenditure that you need to incur. What is capital expenditure? Those of you who are not familiar with financial terms, buying a computer, buying a server, investing on a hardware infrastructure is a capital expenditure, which is actually a huge money that we spend. We don't need to do that. Now I can put that on a subscription model wherein on a yearly basis, I pay $5,000 to maintain my entire IoT platform, to maintain my entire cloud platform. That is the way today organizations move. So basically an IoT, a complete IoT system as we know today, as we know now, it requires a hardware, it requires a sensor, it requires a device. We are going to build the software to manage what is required. Okay, and then you need a connectivity also. So now what happens is, now connectivity, yes, I need to build a connectivity at my location to be able to connect to the IoT platform. But the whole infrastructure is given by this platform service provider. So it takes care of communication channeling. Okay, redundancy is built in automatically. The data flow is managed by them. Managing my devices are taken care by them. The functionality of application which needs to send data, everything is managed using this platform. So in effect, my maintenance cost comes down. Basically, that is the model. Okay, I can connect my hardware with the cloud platform, IoT platform. So easily I am able to get my solution up and running. Otherwise, imagine building an IoT architecture at your college. It's going to take a huge amount of task build a huge amount of money, and it is not easy as well. Even IoT focused connectivity such as LoRa, which we talked about sometime back, okay, low power wide area connectivity, even that you will be able to easily manage using this. So be it a satellite form of connectivity, a cellular form of connectivity, a Wi-Fi, LoRa, any model, it can work beautifully through the platform. Okay, we saw this. Any type of communication protocols can be managed. Yeah, security and authentication is also taken care. In fact, whenever you subscribe to a platform provider, be it a cloud platform or an IoT platform, you can read in their website what kind of a security protocol that they have implemented, how to ensure that my data is safe there, my connectivity is safe. Imagine there are multiple farmers using this technique, and my data is stolen by some other farmer. Then I am at a loss. So I need to make sure that my data is safe, my data is secured, and nobody has access to that. So that protocols are already established. There are standard international protocols, security protocols that get released every now and then for different kinds of services, and they are implemented by these cloud platform providers. So imagine otherwise what happens is, even if you build an architecture on premise, you need to ensure all these things are in place. So you don't need to worry about it here. Only your revenue expenses. Recurring expenses is all that you need to worry about. You are able to easily connect to the platform and start your operations up and running from day one. Tomorrow you build an IoT solution. Within a few days, you can connect to a cloud, whichever IoT platform provider you want to go to, and your solution will be up and running from day one. That is the beauty. And in fact, they also have visualization engines. You can tie up with them. You can tell them, I have a device. Okay, I have written a program to get the data, push the data. Now, I don't have a visualization expert here to generate a graph, to generate a report out of that. So can you do it for me? They do it for me. Okay, they will be able to use a particular software and give the visualization back to you. You will get a graph, you will get a report on a monthly basis on 2nd of every month for the previous month. If your scheduling is fixed based on a monthly pattern. Or I want a report on a weekly basis, you can schedule that. Every week you will get a set of reports from them automatically. So all you need to do is sit, enjoy, relax, manage your business. Okay, I am going to now show you some of the big names of IoT platform providers who are already there in the market today. Trust me, what I am showing is only 4 or 5 big names. There are hundreds, thousands of IoT platform providers already who are there, and the number is only growing. So it has not stopped. Azure, Microsoft managed IoT Hub, which manages the IoT setup for you. Google Cloud, you must all be knowing, Google has its own cloud, and they have also moved into IoT space. So they have a huge presence. AWS, Amazon Web Services, they were one of the first cloud entrants, if I am right. When the cloud became prominent about 10 years back, 10, 15 years back, they were the first to make an entry. Followed by Salesforce. Salesforce, I don't know how many of you know. Salesforce is basically one of the largest CRM service providers, customer relationship management solution providers. So they have their own IT cloud. And then ThinkWorks, I'm sure you must have heard this name. Today, a lot of people who are not able to afford kind of Azure or a Google cost, they can look at ThinkWorks, because ThinkWorks comes at a slightly cheaper price compared to the big names that you see. And also you have IBM. IBM Watson is one of the very popular analytical engines, models that IBM came up with about 10 years back, 10, 12 years back. And they have their own IoT platform, which is used. Incidentally, Zoho, where I represent our principal company, they also have an IoT platform and called WebDNS, in which they manage the IoT services. So besides this, as I told you, there is a platform, open source platform called Blink, BLINK, and umpteen number of providers are there in the market. You can choose tomorrow you want to host an IoT solution. You can choose where to go, which one to look up to. You are able to manage cost. You can very well go to somebody like Azure or cloud. But run Google. Anna, I want to tell you something here. Okay, one of the questions that I have come up with is, I was asking this question to myself. If you look at cloud platform providers, there are not too many. You can count. If you look at mobile OSs, there are not too many. Okay, there are only few very popular. Then if you look at the PlayStations, again, you have very few only. But when you look at the IoT platform providers, there are thousands of providers today. Why? Do all of them have that much business to sustain? May or may not be. I don't know the revenue split, etc. But what I understand is the reason why there are so many people in the market today is still the market is nascent. IoT market has not still matured. So everybody is trying to figure it out. Everybody is trying to understand whether I can make a business out of this, whether it is viable, feasible for me, whether I can sustain my model. Probably at some point of time, say in a couple of years, 5 years from now, you will only see about 20, 25, 50 IoT platform providers. Rest may exit from their business. So this is what I could infer. Okay, this is a very interesting piece. I think we have come to the final piece, final leg of today's presentation. Okay, we spoke about, okay, we all know that any application service, any application model that we build has multiple layers, right? We know that. If you look at the applications that we develop for any commercial applications, we see 2 or 3. It's called the entire architecture. Okay, you can have any number of layers. But typically, we used to build it as a two-tier architecture in our early days when we used to build solutions using Fox Pros, Visual Fox Pros, or Visual Basics, etc. Then, when the .NETs came, ASP.NET was introduced by Microsoft. Gradually, it moved from 2-tier to 3-tier, wherein we use the ASP.NET as a front-end UI, and then the VB.NET used to be used for building the business logics, business layers, etc. And then from there, it became multiple layers. 2 became 3, 3 became 4. You can split what needs to be kept in the business layer 1, business layer 2. You are able to divide that into multiple segments and manage. The database can be distributed, database can be centralized. You have multiple models which you are able to create. Same way, IoT also has a layered approach, layered architecture. Starting from a 2-layer architecture, 3-layer architecture, not 2, 3-layer architecture into even 5-layer architecture, which is there today. Again, it is still maturing. Nothing is proven. This is the best architecture to go with. But majority of IoT applications today use a 4-layer approach, 4-layer architecture. That is what I have tried to depict here. You'll have to start from the bottom. That is where it starts. Okay, it goes upwards. So don't go from top, but start from bottom. As I told you, the first layer is basically devices fitted with sensors. A device alone cannot do anything. A sensor alone cannot do anything. So sensor coupled with the device starts the first layer, emits data, emits signal to the network layer. Okay, the transmission happens through a satellite, through a Wi-Fi, through wide area network, routers. We talked about LoRa. Anything, it can pick up the signal, pick up the data, pushed to the data center. Now here, when it is pushed, what needs to go to cloud, what needs to go to a dedicated data center, which I may not want it to go to cloud. I can even decide that. So I can create a middle layer and middleware to create my business logics. What has to go where? That can be done there. So middle layer becomes an optional model. You can have a web service to manage that. But directly you can push to cloud. As we saw in the other diagram, you can directly push it to cloud. You can have different applications talking to each other. For example, I have a cloud in which I have a centralized application created and I am receiving data from 10 different applications. Now, how am I going to converge these 10 different applications into one data source? I can use the real-time APIs and I can make these APIs talk to each other and then get that data back into a single source. I will be able to do analysis. And then finally comes the application. Whether it is a smart home, whether I am going to have an application at my home, IoT built home, I'm going to have, or a smart kitchen that we saw, or a smart transportation that we spoke about, so smart car that we spoke about, smart building. Yeah, I have a mall, I have an IT house, IT hub, IT complex, which has a lot of IoT devices built in, or a hospital that has a lot of IoT devices built in, or a retail mall, retail consumer durable store, which has IoT devices built in. Wherever it is, I will be able to pass that data back to the store. Yesterday, we spoke about a scenario where a passenger comes into an airport. Okay. Now, immediately, as soon as he enters the airport, his app on the mobile says that last time you visited this particular coffee shop, that coffee shop is 100 meters from here. Do you want to go and pick up a coffee for you? How does it say? Now there is an algorithm inbuilt to announce that, okay, this person has come and this was his interest here, and let me communicate back. So the data is collected real time, data is given back in real time based on some algorithm which is built there. So typically these layers can be broken up further. So that is how the 5-layer part comes into picture. Security layer, for example, you have a high data sensitive model that you want to create. You can have a firewall created in between. An authorization token can be passed before it hits the cloud. That is something that you can create. Once through the Wi-Fi, through the transmission that happens, before it hits the cloud, before it hits the data center, now I need to make sure that I get the data from the right source. So what kind of protocol, what kind of security protocol, what kind of authorization token mechanism that I need to build there can be built using a security layer that I can create in the middle layer. So the options are too many. Options are several. Depending upon the model, depending upon the feasibility, depending upon the cost parameters, you can choose what to go with and how do you want to enhance from there. There is no end to it, right? It keeps going. As I said, there is absolutely no end. It just keeps going endlessly. So that is where things go. Now, finally, okay, before I show this slide, one of the things that I want to touch upon, as I told you yesterday, there are so many softwares and tools which are being used. You can use Python, you can use JavaScript, you can use Core Java, combined with big data processing. Hive can be used, data analytics engine can be used, data quality engine can be used. You have a host of applications that can be put to use here, and there are also exclusive IoT related databases, IoT related OSs which are existing today. So basically, they have been designed in such a way that they are light and you are able to get the best focus out of that. Ubuntu carries one. There are a number of OSs that exist which can be used. There is something called RIoT, Riot, which is exclusively used for IoT related stuff. Contiki is one. TinyOS is one. There are a lot more to this. Okay, does it mean I cannot use Windows? Can I not use my traditional Linux? Yes, you can use, but Windows was not built for IoT. Windows is basically built for a commercial application. So there are OSs that are built towards this. Again, when you go to IoT platform, then there you will have a platform that contains all these OSs. Depending upon the OS that I want to choose, depending upon the database that I want to choose, depending upon my OS, my use case, I can choose what model I need to follow. And then I have a good number of AngularJS programmers. I can use my AngularJS programmers to write my own IoT script. That is something that I can manage. But on the cloud, on the platform, whatever infrastructure is available to me, I can choose what will work best for me, because I will also have that environment at my end to be able to evaluate. So that's where typically a convergence happens between an end user and the platform. On that note, I'm going to conclude this session with a small recap or a small message, which I'm sure you will like. I hope you get the message.
Shall we proceed with question answer session now?
Yeah.
Participants, if you have any queries, if you want to clarify anything, kindly unmute your audio and you can ask. Otherwise, type in the chat box.
Yeah, we will share the PPT. Yes, we will share the PPT in the group. I will share both the PPTs. I will do that. Are you able to understand? Are you able to visualize how an IoT platform, IoT solution is going to function. I think it is most important that we understand. As I told you yesterday, all of you uh, have have much more experience than me. About devices and coding, I'm sure you have better understanding than me. I am not an IoT programmer as such, but I need to do some groundwork to be able to come back. I can spend some time. I can spend some time on that. Maybe I can share some literature on that. I may not be able to take you through a session because what I am trying to cover is more than the coding. Coding is basically something that you can easily pick up. Okay? If you want to use Java or Java, we already know it. It is a question of putting that into an IoT device. So there are specific fine tunings to be done, okay, which is what you need to do. The problem here is what we don't understand is how does it function? How does IoT as a model work? That is what I am trying to explain. But I can definitely spend some time on that. Tomorrow, in fact, I am going to touch upon at least 2 or 3 case studies. I'm trying to, provided I have enough time to create them today. If I am able to do that, I will take you through some of the case studies where they are using IoT today and how what kind of benefits they have got out of that. I think those are the things that will encourage you to look at IoT as a solution. So I am coming from that. Can you show some demo? I don't have an IoT model, IoT model with me, so I'm not sure if I can show you an IoT solution. But let me see. Range of LoRa, it can go up to 1 kilometer. Some LoRa's can go even beyond. You can have multiple devices. If I have, for example, I have a devices connected in my spread. 1,000 meters will be more. So sometimes it goes beyond that depending upon the power. Basically, it is a low network, high bandwidth kind of a thing. It can reach higher with using a low bandwidth, low network. That's the model it works. Are you able to understand? Am I fast? Are you able to visualize it now? Sustainability environment, yes, it does. It will. See, PPT, WhatsApp, yes, we will do. IoT impacting sustainability, yes. Environment, yes. See, okay, I will give you an example. See, it is meant for business. Okay, let us be honest. Okay, any technology that comes today or has been coming, it is meant for business. But also it supports other areas like environment, nature, farming. Farming is also a business, but okay, not many will be able to afford that kind of an investment. So the way it works is environment. You take environment, which is what you have asked me. Now I read that the noise level, the dust level, the air level, air purity has increased because of lockdown. Because there is no traffic in the road. I do not see too much of dust in my balcony on a daily basis. Earlier it used to be a lot more. Now that has come down. So I am able to see this directly. Now when you have an IoT device that can do, so the air quality can be measured, okay, the pollution level can be measured. Today we are measuring all of that using some device in specific places. Instead, you can fit in. For example, they say after Diwali, Chennai's pollution level was this much, decibel level was this much. Now all these things you can measure very easily using an IoT device. You just fit it into specific areas, it can give you the result immediately. Not just on Diwali day, on a daily basis it can be done. Not just on a Bogi day, but on a daily basis it can give. So yes, environment, it can be used. Literally, it can be put to use in any environment. There is no area where it cannot work. Yes, signal. This is something that we discussed yesterday. One of the drawback of IoT today is a signal issue, bandwidth issue. I may have a signal, I may not have the bandwidth. I may have bandwidth, or my signal may be poor. So there could be pockets of data that can be lost, but then they are trying to figure out how that lost data can be restored back. So there are again no audio. I think people are hearing me. I hope people are hearing me. So there is sensor issue will be there, signal issue will be there. So it depends on where you are and what kind of setup you are in. You will be able to manage that. Name of the software and device for masterization. I need to come back to you on this. I will note down this. I'll come back to you. I will check this out and come back to you. I have not done to that extent research on that. In fact, based on what somebody asked me yesterday, whether IoT can be put to use in agriculture, I spent a couple of hours yesterday to understand whatever, where they are using, how they are using. So I will do this. See, there is no software can be anything. I mean, as I said, there is no, I don't think there is a software that works in a particular area. Okay, there is nothing like that. The communication protocol is same, right? So software will take care, but the device can be different. I can completely understand the device may be different. I will come back to you on this. Job losses and skills. No, I told yesterday also this question. I answered this yesterday to somebody. You will never have a job loss because of technology. If you are an IT professional, you will never have a job loss. The point is, how do you optimize your skill sets? How do you enhance your skill sets? Now, IoT, so that you will be able to create solutions. Now, tell me, IoT device is required. Those 4 channels, 4 layers are required. Great. Who will create those? It is the people. It is a set of 61 people who are there in this meeting room are going to create that. That is why I put up that slide. IoT is safe in your hands. So it is we who are going to create it. As long as we are intelligent, devices and robots can never become more intelligent than us. I can tell you that. Any other questions, please? See, the cross-skilling is most important. Okay, that's what I always tell wherever I have gone. Do not call yourself a database professional. Do not call yourself a visualization professional. I think that those days are gone today. You need to be a person who can do multitasking. Multitasking as in, I can manage a Hadoop architecture. I can also manage a MongoDB architecture. Okay, that is how I want to position myself. I can create a visualization using a SAS visual analytics tool. I can create analytics using a Tableau. I can do both. And I will be equally good in my database. Any kind of database, be it a big data, be it a traditional RDBMS or a NoSQL database, unstructured database. That is where upskilling, cross-skilling comes. If you are going to be a single dimensional resource, focusing in a particular area, then yes, we may be left behind. Robots and these devices can become more intelligent than us. They can overtake us. But as long as we keep ourselves equipped with new technologies, the road ahead is beautiful. I'm confident about that. Okay, if there are no more questions, we can wind up. I'll share my email ID and contact number again for the benefit of people who joined late. I joined in the initial. I'm giving my personal ID so that I don't get too many mails on the official ID. So I'm sharing my personal ID, but this is something that I regularly monitor. So you can reach out to me offline. You have any questions? Please write to me or call me or text me. I'll be happy to support. I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the.
Thank you. Thank you to the participants also. Very informative session, sir.
Thank
very
you
much.
Thank you. And again, I'm telling something here. I am not an IoT professional.
But still, you have made us explore towards IoT.
That is the way I always look at any technology. Be it a management, be it a technology subject, be it like if I have to talk to a student in a college, then it could be a completely different kind of a model to talk to them. Now, when you talk to the faculties, and it is a different thing that you share, right? You expect them to be at a particular level, and then you talk. So it depends on that. The point I am trying to tell is, again, I didn't want to be a single dimensional person. I wanted to learn. I mean, I know what is IoT, but to be able to come and talk for 6 hours, I can't talk with what I have on my head. I need preparation. So everything comes through preparation. Everything comes through dedicated time that you spend on a particular area. If you do that, not just one day, consistently, no robo, no device can become more intelligent than any of us. I promise you. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shaheen ma'am. Thank you, Nadira ma'am. Thank you, everybody who joined this session. I appreciate your time, and I hope I made some sense in the day.
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Thank you. So tomorrow, I'm very excited to be back for the third and final session.
Yes, sir. Me too.
You gave an opportunity for me to learn something extra. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. All the best to everybody. Stay safely. I will end the session now. I will share the meeting recording through a link. I will create a shared cloud drive and share it with you.
Okay, sure, sir.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Okay.